Hey guys, how are you? Wanted to come on here to just talk about the video I posted with Mel Robbins, and what she was saying was on point. Caregivers syndrome is real. However, I wanted to talk about how adopting a whole food plant-based diet or eating whole food plant-based and making different lifestyle changes can counteract a lot of those symptoms that come with caregiver syndrome. And for instance, she talked about always being tired, and even after having a full night's sleep, still feeling tired. And the way that a whole food plant-based diet can help with that is that when you're eating plants, you're getting so many different nutrients, like I always talk about. And one of those nutrients are melatonin. Sometimes people go to the health food store or the drugstore and buy melatonin capsules to help them fall asleep. However, when you get the melatonin directly from the foods, not only does it help you to fall asleep, it helps you to stay asleep so you can get that deep sleep, that REM sleep that's going to make you feel rested the next day. Also, plant-based diets contain lots of magnesium, and that magnesium is also good for sleep. And tryptophan, you can find that in your lentils and your beans. This is also great for helping you to sleep. Also, these foods help to decrease inflammation, which there can be inflammation in the body, keeping you asleep. You may have chronic illness, which is usually inflammation in the body, that you can't get a good night's rest. Also, eating late at night. Some people eat late at night, not realizing that when you're sleeping, that's the time your body is repairing itself. And if you eat late at night, then instead of repairing itself, your body is digesting the food that you just eaten. So you don't have a restful sleep. Also, too much screen time or right before bed. You need to let go of the screens at least an hour before bedtime. This can also help to improve your sleep quality. Also, worrying, which leads to chronic stress. In our program, Beat Chronic Stress, we show people how to create exit strategies to eliminate the chronic stress, and which will eliminate the excessive worry. And what else did she talk about? She talked about concentration, brain fog, organization. Well, eating a whole food plant-based diet contains so many antioxidants that reduce inflammation and stress in the brain, prevents cell damage in the brain. Also, it helps to reduce inflammation, which can also be contributed to the problem with concentration and brain fog. Helps with blood sugar. That can also be a contributory factor. Also, your gut. There's a gut-brain connection, and a whole food plant-based diet can help your microbiome, your bacteria. You have bacteria in your gut, and when it's healthy, it keeps your gut healthy, and in turn, that gut-brain connection keeps your brain running healthy. What else did she talk about? Let me see. Being irritable and short-tempered. Eating these foods, right, help to prevent, again, the inflammation. Also, it helps with lowering your blood sugars. All of the things that we talked about in the previous things that I just talked about, what it does for the body. This helps your body and the brain to be at its optimal, and your body's at the optimal. When you're not feeling well, you're irritable, you're stressed. However, when you're eating good foods and you're putting these good foods in your body, it helps to improve your mood. I've also talked about how when I eat whole food plant-based diet, it gives me more energy and more clarity. So this can help with those mood issues. So it's great. I'm telling you, it's like a night and day. Once, if you've been eating not so healthy for a long time and you switch over, the clarity and energy you feel is really great. Also, what did she talk about? Oh, the withdrawing, the loneliness, and the isolation. That can easily happen, especially if you're dealing with taking care of someone who's bedridden, or maybe you have a disabled child who has different behavioral challenges or different things that makes it difficult sometimes to commune with others, or whatever the case may be. However, that's where social connections are so important. And also we tend to, sometimes think we're associating with people who we feel like just don't get it, don't get our situation. I know I felt that so many times. And so having community and support, excuse me, I can't be showing. Having a community, creating social connections, those things are so important. And having connections with people who are like-minded or who share your experience is important. I know when I was caregiving, I had a community of other people who were caregiving in the same vein that I was, and it was just it was just helped me through the whole process. Also, intentionally having social connections, even if you are kind of stuck to the house, have to stay where you are because your client or your loved one is bedridden. Well, make intentional social connections. You can have people come over to visit you and enjoy those social connections, or you could get someone to watch your loved one or take care of your loved one while you go out and you have that social connection. It has to be intentional. And sometimes you're so tired, exhausted, or you're depressed and you just don't feel like it. Before it gets to that state, that caregiving burnout state, be intentional. Make the effort to connect with others. If you have a congregation that you're associated with, that spiritual connection, that community can also be uplifted. So try not to isolate, and if you are depressed, seek help. Maybe you need some therapy from a licensed professional. And so, but don't stay in that state. You're not alone, and there's so many communities and different resources out there to help you through that process. And what else did she talk about? Change in appetite. That can happen. And we talked about how eating a lot of ultra-processed foods and the things in them that they use designed to keep you coming back for more. You don't feel satiated, and so you continue to eat more. And what the excess oil and sugar can do to keep you coming back for more. And as a caregiver, you may tend to reach for the quick, processed packaged, drive-through foods, and this could be increasing your appetite unknowingly. Also, for comfort or emotional comfort, we may eat because of our situation. I know I used to do that, and just it made me feel like, oh, this was my, like I told you, my little time for myself, so I eat this thing. So it could be those things that is making you eat more. Also, when you eat those ultra-processed food, your palate has been hijacked, and you need to restore it to reduce the cravings. And so you won't have that constant need for that food that's going to create health challenges for you. Some people, their appetites decrease. So it could be a real challenge. But getting your body to an optimal state of health can help with those things. And adopting a whole food plant-based way of eating is a great way to do that. What else she said? Getting sick more often. We talk about that. The majority of our immune system is in the gut. When we're chronically stressed, worried, it affects the gut. And if we're not eating right, all of that affects the gut. The chronic stress, all of that can increase, lower our immune system, and we find ourselves getting sick more often. I experienced that as well. And so we need to make sure that we are prioritizing our health and what we're eating and how we're moving and things like that. Also, she said we feels like the stress never ends. It's forever chronic. And I talked about that with my situation because I'm a lifelong caregiver. Well, it's perspective. Now, it may last forever. It may last until either you or the loved one passes away. So it could be lifelong. So what do? Well, what I've done and what you can do as well is not to prioritize yourself. Because if this is going to be a lifelong situation, then you need to really make some real changes in your lifestyle so that you're able to take care of your health, pursue your passions and goals, be able to socially connect and have community, make sure you're feeding yourself spiritually, and having a purpose besides caregiving in life. And so those are the things you have to prioritize even though you're caregiving. And it may sound impossible, but it isn't. It isn't. I can say that for sure. I'm very active in spiritual activities in my community. I have a coaching business. I love doing this, helping people with their health. I still have time for family, and it's possible. And if it's possible for me, it's possible for you, and it can be done. And we also, in our program, Be Chronic Stress, we show you how you can achieve that, even while caregiving. So, even though it could look pretty gloomy, and caregiving syndrome is a real thing, but if we don't address it, it could wind up being something that's detrimental and very bad outcome. So we want to make sure we get the sleep, we nourish our brains and our bodies so that we can stay healthy, not just for ourselves, but those we care for, our family members. Also, not isolating. We have to be intentional about that. It's not just going to come on its own, none of this. You have to be intentional about it, and you have to show up. Just like you show up every day for these people, you have to show up for yourself. Okay? Getting sick more often. If you don't address this is going to happen, and then it could turn to something really detrimental. And what was the last one? It may not ever end, but that doesn't mean that your life is just doomed to gloom and, whatever. There's more to life, and you can enjoy it even as a lifelong caregiver. So if you find it very challenging as a caregiver to encompass all these things and not develop this caregiving syndrome, and you need support and help, please contact us. Our contact information is in the comments. And on that note, I'm going to say have an amazing day, but I'm saying the video that Mel Robbins talks about is real, it's important, but you can overcome it. You do not have to succumb to caregivers syndrome or burnout. And on that note, have an amazing day on purpose.